It is so cool to have a chance to actually see you, Cara Giaimo. You've been on the show, both Dog Talk and Exotic Pets, numerous times with big, fat, amazing books that cover wildlife and life on Earth for centuries and across continents. Now you've written a book that I think is one of the most delicious tidbit books I've ever come across, and something that people can savor, but also a perfect gift book. Leaving the Ocean Was a Mistake. Life Lessons from 60 Sea Creatures. Those of you who have YouTube will see the cuteness and the adorableness and the tidiness of this book. Your other books were large and unwieldy in the best sense. This book has this wisdom that you ascribe to sea creatures, but it's obviously Kara's idea of wisdom. And they're all just wonderful ideas, and I think really good philosophies, particularly now when the world seems so unpleasant and confusing, both nationally and internationally. It's just really nice to have this book that goes, oh, yeah, there's nothing more important than knowing yourself. Then this comes from you have it divided into different parts of the ocean. This is the sunlight zone. And this creature is a blue streak cleaner rash. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. But talk a little, or you just pick out. They're all my favorites. I love them all. But they're great because it makes us appreciate your appreciation of the creatures who live at the bottom of the sea or in the sea or even on the surface of the sea. I particularly like the gloomy octopus, which must be the kind of octopus he or she is. And your wisdom is never be afraid to set and enforce your boundaries. So just, I don't know, jump in anywhere and talk about how these bits of wisdom came to you, because they seem very profoundly genuine. Like you're really channeling these creatures.
Thank you. Yeah, so the conceit of the book, as Tracy was talking about, is that you're learning about ocean creatures one by one with these fantastic illustrations by Vlad Stankovic showing you what they look like, but then you're
They are.
also learning from them. So
Mhm.
each spread in the book, you can see this,
Yeah.
has a real life ocean creature, a fact about that creature, and then a piece of wisdom that we can glean from how this creature lives its life. Like you said, the Blue Streak Cleaner Race, like you mentioned, I've written a lot of books that are just like fact upon fact because I really love learning about all the
Yes.
interesting lives of all these species all around the world that might be different from us, but somehow relatable. And that was really the case for this book. Every time I learned about something, it wasn't so hard to turn it into a piece of wisdom. So for the cleaner race, this is a fish that can actually recognize itself in the mirror, which,
Wow.
as all of us with pets know, is not necessarily a given, even for very animals that we consider to be really smart. Humans can do it, obviously. Elephants can do it. Horses can do it. And then these fish can do it. And so the little piece of wisdom is there's nothing more important than knowing yourself, which I also thought was a good way to start the book.
A beautiful way to start the book, because you have us look inward in a lot of ways that while we're looking, as you said, outward at these creatures. Is it true? I can ask you anything about any animal because you are, as far as I'm concerned, the fount of all wisdom. Is it true that primates cannot recognize themselves in a mirror? That's not true, is it?
Some can, yeah. I think it depends on the species. There's something called the mirror test. You can
I,
put a dot on the animal, and if they look in the mirror and they're like, huh, you know that they understand that they're looking
wow.
at themselves. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. See, the things you can learn from a car are quite amazing. All right. I'm flipping the book with you. This
Sure.
book is really great. There's nothing in it that isn't delicious. And by the way, as good for a deeply philosophical person with doctorates as it is for a very small child.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually dedicated to my nephew who is 5, and he loves
Oh,
animals too. We talk about them all the time.
oh, nice to have you for his auntie.
Yeah, he's awesome. All right, let's see another good one here. This is a really cool creature.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is the peacock mantis shrimp. You can see it's like all these amazing colors and it has a ton of skills. This creature is actually also in my other book that you were talking about, Wildlife. There are a few creatures made it into both books because they're just so cool. So this mantis shrimp, it basically has a really special defense mechanism where it can just punch the water really hard, and it creates enough sort of energy in the water that the water begins to boil, and it creates a shock wave. And so anything that's trying to get it, it will be repelled. And humans, like fishermen, sometimes get zapped by these guys, and they say it's quite powerful. Yeah.
It's amazing to imagine because he or she looks like a creature from a really incredible children's book, not even
Yeah,
from
totally.
a fantastical, imaginary, just a wild invention of a crazy mind on psychedelics or something. And yet it's a
Totally.
real shrimp. And
Real.
what is our piece of wisdom from the peacock mantis shrimp?
So this is a little less philosophical. The piece of wisdom here is something, if something makes you mad, just punch it so hard it blows up.
I love that. I'm sure your nephew loved it.
Yeah, I think the funny part of writing this book was like, yeah, like I tried to make it so some of it's really profound and some of it's really silly, and like page by
Yes.
page you're not totally sure what you're gonna get. But I think it's all worth thinking about. So both those creatures were in the most shallow zone of the ocean. And as you go deeper into the book, the colors get a little darker, the
Yes.
creatures get a little bit stranger, and the advice also gets a little bit stranger. At least that was the goal.
I
So,
like the one which you may not have picked, but it's just why this book is an amazing gift to give someone because you could almost tag the pages that are specific to that friendship or ex relationship or current relationship. The White's Seahorse.
oh yeah,
There's many
let's talk
kinds of
about that.
seahorse, but let's talk about them for a minute and then the wonderful advice. Yes.
So the white seahorse is a species that mates for life. Some species don't. Some species like change who they mate with constantly, and then some species are really monogamous and they pair off for life. This seahorse not only pairs for life, but every single morning they do a special dance when they see each other, where they change colors, they spin around, they hold tails, they swim side by side. And then when it's time for them to mate, they do that cool seahorse thing that a lot of people know about, where the female will put the fertilized eggs, or at least the eggs, into the male's body. And so the male carries the eggs. So the female makes the eggs, but the male is pregnant. And then the male cares for the eggs until they hatch. Got this very romantic illustration. And then the advice is don't let anyone tell you your relationship is weird.
Out of this world. It's so amazing, just the amazingness of these creatures. And then that advice is so great because, yeah, just do you, as we say.
Mhm. Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to my editor on this book, Jess Zimmerman. They were really great at getting the advice to be super sharp and funny. We really worked together on that
Really?
part. Yeah.
So did you have to have glasses of wine while doing it? Were you able to read it all?
No, we
And
did the
it's
social editor writer thing of just hanging out in a Google Doc a lot. Yeah. Let me see who else we can talk
pick
about.
another one.
Yeah. Let's
The
go into the
vampire
midnight
squid,
zone.
some
The
of them,
vampire squid?
their
Yeah.
names are just like, whoa. And then the way they look, this vampire squid, is that just the one eye? Does they have just one eye?
They have
Like,
two eyes. The other one is just over here.
just
I,
asking.
I learned a lot about ocean creatures while writing this. I will say it was not an area of biology that I knew a ton about, but I gained this huge appreciation, especially for, I would say, squids and snails, because there's all different kinds and they're all really cool. The vampire squid, it's interesting that you pointed out the name because the fact about it is about its name. The first scientist who ever saw this creature and gave it its name saw how scary it looks and called it Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which means vampire squid from hell. But in reality, the vampire squid is not a big hunter. It only flares up its arms and its cape in self-defense. It like nibbles little bits of things drifting in the ocean. It doesn't hunt. And so it's actually not even a squid, it's a cephalopod of a different kind. Every single part of its name is wrong, basically. It gives you the complete wrong idea about what it is. The piece of advice is never let people's uninformed opinions change you because
Nice.
he's just doing his thing,
It's all
even
wrong.
though, yeah,
That's
we
completely
misinterpreted.
wrong. Wasn't
Yeah,
from hell, actually a very peaceful creature.
yes.
You have to check out other creatures. I'm definitely, by the way, have to send this book, several versions of it, to the amazing doctors who have joined me on Exotic Pets and even on Dog Talk. The ones who love the atypical pets and the
Yeah.
atypical creatures, Dr. Doug Mader, Rick Lacuter, they will adore this because they are also people of philosophy, but they've swum in these oceans.
Cool.
They've Jeff Jenkins has captured a number of pet octopus,
Oh, wow. No
captured
way.
them, brought them home, and lived with them as his companions for their
Wow.
lifespan, which has often been 3 years. He'll go nuts for this book. Goodness only knows. I hope he doesn't try and go and capture any of these and bring them home, but he might try.
Ooh. Speaking of pets, I feel like this next creature is inspirational to some of our dogs and dog people out there. So we've moved into the midnight zone, which is our
Okay.
third deepest zone. Goes from 3,300 feet down to 13,100 feet. So it's a very vast. This is a creature called the sea toad.
Yes, it's
Um,
so cute. I
it's
want one.
really cute. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it's a fish, but instead of swimming, it likes to take its funny little front fins that it has there and just walk along the sand. So the advice, which I do try to follow, is don't forget to take your little walk. If
It's
you're
so cute.
frustrated, if you're sad, it really helps to just get out there and put one fin in front of the other. And I'm sure all of our dogs watching this program would agree.
The dogs know this for a fact. What's great about these bits of wisdom from you, it's don't forget to take your little walk. There's something about that adjective that just makes it so charming because he can only take little walks because he's only got little fins and he's managing
Yeah,
the ocean. Take your little walk. It doesn't have to be a hike, just a little walk.
a walk. Yeah, exactly. I also, do we have a little more time?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We've got to take all the time. This book is so yummy.
I really like this one too. This was something I learned while reporting this book. I think a lot of people are familiar with photos of blobfish where they look like this. They're pink and lumpy and they
I
just look
did
like
not know about it.
the weirdest, like melted fish. And it turns out that underwater they look less squished. They look like a more regular shape. They don't look quite so hard done by. They're like a little bit more in their element, like literally. And it turns out that because of the pressure that they're used to living under super deep, when you bring them to the surface, they collapse because
Oh,
they
how
don't have
interesting.
that pressure. Just like we would change shape and appearance if we were in a
Right.
pressure environment that we couldn't deal with. So the fact here is the blobfish is famous to humans for looking like a big melted clown face, but this is only true above the water where this fish would never choose to go. In its home, a mile or more below the surface, where the pressure is about 100 times what we face on land, this fish's jelly-like body and droopy bones serve it well and are compacted into a more traditional fishy shape. So the advice is, if you feel like a hideous blob, you might just be out of your element.
It's just so great. The advice is so wonderful and off the wall. We could all have a bad hair day, or we could just look droopy. And maybe we just need to, I don't know, get out in the sun or the wind or take our little walk. And
There's
that's a
always
great
something you
fact
can do
about
to
him
feel a
of
little
why
better.
he's wobbly. If we think of what people's faces look like, if you see like people that are doing that flying with those wings,
Yeah, it's
it's
like
just all
there's
like
something
weird,
like
like
yeah.
the wind is, or the pressure, or I don't know. It's just, it makes me think of them, these blobfish, in a different way. So now, are we staying in the midnight zone?
Sure. There's a lot of cool guys in the
There
Midnight Zone.
are very.
Let's
It's
see.
amazing how many there are, how you even learned about them. How did
Yeah,
you
it's
learn
funny.
about them, by the way?
It was interesting because when I first started working on this book, I thought, okay, 60 creatures. Like working on the wildlife book, we had to cut down from tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of species.
That's
I was
right.
like, it'll be easy to find 60. But in the end, with all the constraints of the zones and wanting to have a lot of different types of creatures, and especially needing to have ones that we have enough visual references for that they could be illustrated, and then enough information about that there was like a fact that I could be
I,
pretty sure about, it wasn't a lot to choose from. In the end, it wasn't that hard to pare down because we're
I,
still discovering so much about the ocean and we're finding new animals every day, but there's so much that we don't know. So even though I'm sure there are thousands, tens of thousands of species there, we don't know enough about a lot of them for them to give us advice at this point, I would say.
I love that. Oh my God. I think you have to do the Yeti crab because the advice is
Oh,
so
yeah.
good. We're
All right,
still in
awesome.
the midnight zone here. Just reminding people that we're getting deeper and deeper into the ocean. The illustrations are divine. Each one
Aren't
you
they
could
great?
frame and put on your wall. Oh yeah, they're gorgeous.
Totally. Yeah, I think I was really happy because I don't know if people know this, but the author of a book doesn't always have a lot of involvement in the actual production.
Right.
Like I
That's
got to
right.
see the illustrations and the drafts and the basic design, but when I got a copy in the mail, I didn't realize how small it was going to be. So I got this package and I was like, "What's this?" And then I was like, "Oh, it's my book."
But that's
Yeah,
so cute. The
I was
fact
so
that
happy about.
it's size is delicious. It
Yeah,
just makes it, I don't know, just something you'd like to take with you somewhere. Bring to
yeah.
someone's house instead of a bottle of wine if they happen to have you over to dinner.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's very compact. It's very cute, and it's easy to like, yeah, flip through slowly or all at once. But yeah, the Yeti crab is very cool. Yeti crabs live in this really interesting environment within the ocean, hydrothermal vents. Just like we have volcanoes on land, the ocean has these hydrothermal vents where gas from the Earth's core is basically being expelled up through these cracks in the seafloor. And that's nice for these creatures because it's like warm instead of being freezing cold.
I
You have a little oasis in the middle of the very, very cold ocean. So these Yeti crabs live there. And the fact here is to make the most of the small areas that the crabs are confined to, some populations of these crabs all climb on top of one another in a giant mosh pit. And rather than search for food, they grow a fuzzy layer of edible bacteria on their own bodies, which is really crazy because they live in this really fruitful zone. So they're farming on themselves. Some help the bacteria thrive by waving their claws through the water in a swaying dance. So their fact is every night can be a perfect club night because they're basically spending all their time in a big group, climbing on top of each other and dancing like this.
it's great. And they're totally self-sufficient.
Yeah, it's
They
awesome.
just keep
Really
doing
cool.
that. Every night is Saturday night.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is fun because like I feel like I don't know, we think about the ocean often as this like foreboding, scary place.
Yes.
It is for us because we can't live down there, but all of these creatures, they're actually built to survive. So they're probably having a great time. They're not necessarily
Except for
uncomfortable.
the ones that I get the impression that someone larger than them is always out to eat them.
Yeah,
Whereas the
that's tough.
Yeti crabs are just like hanging together, partying.
Yeah.
Not in danger that the bigger fish eat the smaller fish, the medium fish. You have this idea of a lot of gobbling going on.
Totally. All right, I actually really one more in this zone, the midnight zone. So I'm going to talk about Pakicetus and the sperm whale. So this is something that I learned about a year ago or so. I read this really good Stephen Jay Gould essay about Pakicetus. This is Pakicetus. Just to give a little refresher, life in general, like the concept of being alive, evolved in the ocean. And a lot of the mechanisms that we associate with being alive also evolved in the ocean, like a lot of senses and things like that. And then at some point, an animal decided to leave the ocean and go up probably first to a river and then onto the land. And all land animals started then. But then at some point, this guy, Pakicetus, whose ancestors evolved on the land, decided to go back into the ocean. It's not totally clear why. Fossils show that he looked like a funky little dog with a
Yeah,
long nose, and he lived in swamps. And slowly over generations, he went back into the ocean, and he actually is the ancestor of all whales and dolphins. So all ocean mammals,
outrageous.
yeah,
Outrageous.
evolved from this little dog, which is pretty cool. So the fact about that is it's never too late to go back to the ocean. Another kind of conceit of the book was that obviously it's called Leaving the Ocean was a mistake. So there's this certain sense that the sea creatures are trying to pull us back and say,
Yes. You know, what's amazing about that is that you found this fact, and it is a fact. So the idea that whales were the largest mammal, and they are mammals, it's how did we all just accept, oh yeah, okay, mammals, they're in the ocean and they're mammals. Turns out evolved like reverse evolution on
yeah,
and back to the ocean. Then in a weird way, it makes more sense, although obviously the leaving the ocean was a mistake for that little funny anteater looking dog creature. So how did you find that fact, for example? Everything in here is a solid, reliable fact, but how did Kara find it?
Oh, this one, I just stumbled on it. Yeah, I was reading Stephen Jay Gould and he had a big essay about finding the Pachycetus fossil and what it meant and how it helped us solve this mystery. And then the other facts, I have some sourcing notes in the back here of the book. I had a few books I really relied on. And then I want to shout out some aquariums that keep really good online
Yes.
information. Monterey Bay Aquarium, their research institute is called MBARI. The Ocean Conservancy, Oceana, the NOAA Ocean Exploration website is really good. The Scripps Institution, which is in California, is really good. Woods Hole, which is close to me in
Right.
Smith, I think, is really good.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, there are some blogs and websites. There's like kind of a small community of people who I think are really into this. Oh, something else I want to recommend is there is this nonprofit called Schmidt Ocean Institute that runs these amazing expeditions to
Ooh.
oceans all around the world. And they have this ship with a submersible that can go super deep. And
Oh,
it's really awesome because they bring these big groups of scientists, like all different kinds of scientists. You got like geochemists, you have biologists, you have climate scientists, like all kinds of people all together. They usually also bring an artist, which is really fun. And
wow.
they live stream the dives. So they will say, this time on this day, we're gonna send the submersible down and we're gonna live stream. So you can see what they're seeing. And then the scientists are speaking about what they're seeing in real time. It's really cool. And you can
So
watch the old ones on
would you
YouTube.
be invited since you're now part of this little clique of humans? Would you be invited?
I would sure not say no. I've written about them a few times. I've talked to a lot of their scientists and stuff for different stories. If anybody wants to invite me,
Yes,
go
please.
for
Somebody
it.
invite this amazing woman who brings back to those of us on Earth these incredible facts. When we talk about a submersible in the ocean, it's a little scary. It's reminiscent of that one that blew up, but these submersibles aren't in danger. They aren't endangering the people.
No, and usually there's no one inside them. So they're totally robotically controlled or like remote
I
control.
see.
So the
So it,
people are on the ship seeing the same thing that the live stream is seeing, but they're
right,
moving the little claws and appendages and
right.
they're saying go that way, go this way. Yeah.
Oh, that feels better to me. Because when I said, "Can you invite Kara?" I'm like, "Wait, I don't think I want her to be down there. It's scary." So
Thank
when
you.
we get to the abyssal zone, like abysmal but not abysmal, how do you pronounce abyssal zone?
Think it's abyssal. I like that, like the abyss.
There's two pages looking at each other that are amazing. One is the advice is see the world with a friend, and on the opposing page it says or sit quietly alone in the dark. And one is pig, which is such a great name, and the other is a Dumbo octopus. These are actually existing creatures. They're not from a Disney cartoon. So
They're
what
really
about
fun.
these? They're so cool.
They're very cool. So the sea pig
Hey, pig.
fascinated me because
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff also, like we've only seen these creatures necessarily two or three or four times on camera. And so it's really hard to generalize about their behavior, but we just have to do what we can with what we have. So the sea pig has been photographed and observed multiple times. So not hundreds of times, but more than once,
Okay.
taking a little journey across the seafloor on his many feet with specifically a juvenile crab, like a young crab who comes along. So,
Always, always a juvenile crab on the few times
well,
we've seen the pig.
a few times we've seen that seems to be what's happening. So I don't know if it's like a Thelma and Louise situation or what, but they're just taking a little road trip. And then, yeah, the opposite thing, the Dumbo octopus, these guys are really cute. Recommend looking up videos of them. They're so cute. They're the deepest living octopuses that we know. They move by flapping their ears, basically. They're not ears. They're basically head fins, but
They
he
look
looks like
like
with an
this.
elephant.
Yeah.
And when submersibles see them, they do this really cute thing. Again, not every time, but more than once, where the submersible shines its light and the octopus just goes like this with its
Oh,
ears.
how darling. It uses the ear fins to cover
To
his
cover its
little
eyes.
eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
a
a
good
little
way to
sad,
keep
but
from
cute.
being taken, is you just don't look. So sit
Exactly.
quietly alone in the dark is fabulous.
Yeah.
Carol, we've run out of time. This book is so great. The more we talk about it, the more I realize the number of veterinarians and doctoral geniuses about atypical animals I'm going to be sending copies to.
Thank you.
Everybody will love it. And those of you who don't ever intend to go down in a submersible or even be on the boat where the submersible is, this is a journey worth taking. Thank you for this beautiful book and your passionate interest in the world around us, and also to your 5-year-old nephew, who I'm sure continues to inspire you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you again.
A complete delight. Take care.